I do live north of here between the towns of Jasper and Ireland on our family farm. We have a livestock and grain operation there where I farm with my uncle. I'm the seventh generation to be there, so basically I go in every day hoping I don't screw stuff up for the 6 generations that came before me. So got 6 kids at home. They might be the 8th generation, but who knows? We'll let them make their own decisions, right? So you see, that's what's interesting about agriculture. It tends to draw those individuals in who have a passion about production and a passion about making a difference. Sometimes when you look at it, I think agriculture chooses farmers, not farmers choosing agriculture. So food for thought. How'd you guys, ladies, how'd you guys get to where you're sitting today? What did you do to get there? What was the journey that you took? Did you go straight into farming, or was there another avenue that you took? You know, when I was little, I always thought I was going to be one of those nice fitness instructors. I don't really know what the hell happened, but something did along the way. But I can tell you, 25 years ago, honestly, I never thought I'd be involved in agriculture today, and I never thought I'd be at home helping on the farm. So, again, you just never know. Life's funny that way. Prior to coming to Superior Ag, I spent 15 years of my career working as ag loan officer at a couple local banks. What's nice is I got to know many of you guys sitting at your tables and in your shops, and I appreciate you allowing me to come in and share your experience. What excites me today yet is each and every operation in here is different, and it's got its own story to tell. And new history is being made every day. So why are we here today? Apparently it's to learn how to use one of these things, huh? Okay, so why are we here today? Is it to better understand new and upcoming technology, new ideas? Is it to complement your existing operation, maybe drive your bottom line, or even help start learning new stuff for next year? Heck, I don't know much, but I know Scott Harper now over there, he's just here for the pork chop. Am I right, Scotty? That's fine. Lunch will be good. I've got faith in the good people at Meyer Catering. No worries. Competition. Competition is the reason why we're all here today. Plain and simple. Heck, you didn't even know that's why you were here today, Larry. But you're here, and we're glad to have you. Farmers are the most competitive people you'll ever meet in your life. Try changing my mind. Look, up here behind me, it's the first classic glimpse of farming competition. You've been farming long. Yeah, I'm telling you, look at those eyes. I've seen those eyes. They're just wanting to know who's going to farm Grandma's 400 acres when she retires. Am I right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of truth in that. So tell me, as an American farmer, who are you competing against out in the crowd? Anybody? Is it the rest of the world? China, Russia, other states, Iowa? What I want you to take away from today is the biggest competition in your operation needs to be yourself. Not your neighbor, not the rest of the world, not Iowa, but yourself. I want you to consistently challenge yourself to make your operations better. If you do this, there's only good things to come. William McKinley, he was the 25th President of the United States. He wrote, "Without competition, we would be clinging to the clumsy, antiquated process of farming and manufacturing, the methods of business from long ago. And the 20th would be no further advanced than the 18th century." Wise words from long ago. However, I feel it's probably just as important today in the 21st century. They knew they had lots of techniques and new equipment, but they could never fathom the technology that we have today. So you're out there looking at me going, how in the world does Preston want me to compete against myself? Well, you guys probably don't realize it, but I'm guessing you're doing it today already. We're just going to look at the how and why. What I want to focus on today is how do I compete against myself to financially make my operation stronger, that it drives the income statement, and it's going to eventually transfer down and affect my balance sheet. Essentially, I'm at point A, I want to get to point B, but do we dare go out to point C? Keeping in mind that all operations are different, just like their management, I want to talk to you about my 3 best friends in college and their operations. Their names are Trent, Johnny, and Big Mike. Absolutely super people. I wouldn't trade them for anything. Each one of those guys would give you the shirt off their back. They all just have very different management styles. Let me give you a little background. Trent, love Trent, seeker of all things new. Trent's the competitor of the group. No one will ever outproduce Trent. Not Big Mike, not Big me, none of us friends, not by a mile. He will do anything, and he will buy it and throw it out the crop every single time, whether he knows whether it makes financial impact and sense of his operation. He only wants more bushels. My favorite quote from Trent is, "I love corn." Yeah, what farmer doesn't like corn, right? I mean, realistically, I've sat around a lot of coffee shops in southern Indiana with guys who farm thousands of acres of soybeans, but I've never heard them talk about how good Bill or Bob's soybeans look over there. They want to talk about corn. They just want to talk about corn. But Trent's trendy. He entertains 10 salesmen a week. He gets the latest and greatest additives and potions. He even has equipment on his operation I've not seen in Prairie Farmer magazine yet. I like Trent. Now, the complete opposite side of the spectrum, the complete opposite side, my good friend Johnny. Johnny happened to be our designated driver for most good memories of college, and he was probably responsible long before his time. Johnny comes from historically one of the most successful operations in the county, but lately he's been seeing some down financial years on his operation. Johnny enjoys farming, and he's a super hard worker. I can guarantee you guys, Johnny works almost twice as many hours as the rest of us in a friend group, but hands down, Johnny likes remembering the way and success his grandpa had and most of the techniques he used. Johnny loves his farm and likes it just the way it is. He knows the security of the operation and historically what it's provided his family. Now, Johnny doesn't generally like it when we get together and laughs at the rest of us when we get to talk about new things we're trying. Johnny's motto is start earlier, stay longer, and work harder. I get it. I know a lot of guys like that, and I appreciate that. But I'm not for sure if Johnny understands the difference between activity and productivity, right? Who knows? I don't think any of us will ever change him. So this leaves Big Mike, the big thinker of the group. I always enjoy my time with Big Mike because whenever he's talking, there's always a good story to go with it. Now, Mike's a progressive farmer, but he always seems to be pretty cautious. I'm just guessing, but for every hour Mike spends out in the field, he probably spends 15 minutes down in the basement working in an Excel spreadsheet, looking at emails or charting the markets. His wife says, I don't know what he's doing down there. I tell her I don't know, but it seems to be working for him. I've seen his operation grow over the past 20 years. It's been steady, a bunch of little small steps. Mike used to be a lot like Johnny 20 years ago when we first met at Purdue. But it seems like he's been starting to really embrace change. And it's made financial sense for him and his family. So I asked him one weekend when we got together, said, Big Mike, your management style, it's changed since I got to know you in college there. And he said this, Preston, I was 22 years old when Dad passed away. And he said, Mike, if you want to be successful, you got to plan your work and work your plan. Plan your work and work your plan. Yeah, such a simple concept, but I think we're all guilty of jumping into things sometimes. So long story short, Mike relies on the most up-to-date information to make those educated decisions out there, and he implements into his operation only if they make financial sense. As farmers, one of our biggest obstacles to overcome is becoming aware of the challenge of change. Can you or are you willing to make the changes necessary to keep up with the fast-paced movement in the ag sector? Remember, old beliefs will not lead you to new opportunities. Now, I'm absolutely not saying the way we've been managing our operations for the past 50 years won't work in the future because they work in the past. What I'm saying, though, is if we get so ingrained in doing the same procedure over and over again, do we become afraid? Afraid to change when opportunity arises? Looking at your personal farm, how's it compare up here to the spectrum of guys I just talked about? Are you open to new ideas and suggestions? Remember, I want you to be your biggest competitor, your own competition. We should continually be asking ourselves, what can I do today to make my operation better than it was the day before? So look behind me. Look all around us here today. Look what's at our disposal. There's no other plot system in the country like what we've got available to us, and it's sitting right here in our backyard. Any one of us can have this information in this room. There's nearly 200 answer plots in 32 states countrywide, and they've got 4,000 acres planted in these plots with 7,000 replicated trials. I appreciate what Winfield's doing for us. And to top it off, our sales team here and our precision teams, they annually evaluate all the products we sell in side-by-sides. And guess what? They're with your help on your farms. And that way we determine if they truly make sense for us here in the tri-state area. So with all the new additives, micros, products that are out there today, what keeps us all from turning into my buddy Trent and using every one of them? Any guesses? Our checkbooks. Yeah, our checkbooks. It's really that easy, right? I think we can all understand that. We're all limited to how much we can push into the crop and see beneficial returns. But can we more efficiently push the envelope than what we're doing today? Here in front of you is what we should continually be challenging ourselves with. Does anybody know what that is? I get it, it's a graph. Everybody loves graphs, right? All right? Real quick, the section on the graph between the vertical lines is where I want each of your operations to be. And I want that's where each field should function, right? This section is known as the diminishing marginal returns of your operation. So what's this really mean? Keep in mind we're talking about a return to net income and not a return to more bushels. This means that we can continue to increase production, add more bushels per acre. We reach a level of satisfaction or a plateau where one more dollar we continue to stick into the crop no longer equals an additional bushel. From this point, each bushel costs us more to produce than the bushel before it. However, both net income and inevitably return on investment will begin to fall, will begin to fall with each additional bushel produced. Up there, you can see where we peak and then fall off. So follow me on this for a second. We're going to think of this graph on a really small scale. So I've got 6 kids at home, right? 5 boys and 1 girl. My wife calls me the other night and she says, hey, I'm going to be late from a meeting. I need you to cook supper. I say, hey, no problem. I got this. So like any dad, I run over to the freezer and I grab the jumbo pack of 128 pizza rolls. Yeah, thank you, Sam's Club, right? So I lay 6 plates out there, put 10 pizza rolls on each one of them, heat them up in the microwave. Everybody says, Dad, you're the best cook in the house. I say, I know. Yeah. Anyways, here's what we got. 3 of the kids are done, and they say they're full, right? That's great. 3 of them say, we're still hungry. So for 3 of them, every pizza roll they ate, each one provided the same level of satisfaction and fullness as the one before it did. They operated on this first part of the graph up here, basically. Nearly 1 for 1, right? Pizza roll to fullness. Now, for the other 3, I go back in the freezer and I made them each 10 more pizza rolls, right? Total of 20. I told them, I want to make sure y'all clean your plate. So they did. At the end, 2 of them said, hey, we're super full and cannot hold any more. But they still tasted good, just not as good as the first 10, right? These 2 kids ended up on this part of the graph, right here in the middle. Kind of maximized their utility. They wanted to eat a little bit more because they were still hungry, but each one of the additional ones they ate didn't really give them the satisfaction that the first 10 did. Now, as all families, there's that one kid. The one who tests you. Yeah, that one. In this case, Mr. Dallas tells me 20 pizza rolls just wasn't enough, and I'm still hungry. So I go ahead against my good judgment, and I make him 10 more. Now, as you can expect, after eating about 3 of these pizza rolls, he tells me, Dad, I'm full. And I remind him, if I cook them, you eat them, big boy. Right? So I made him sit there, and I made him clean his plate, 30 pizza rolls and all, right? 10 were good, 10 were great, 10 were good. Yeah, 10 made him feel like this, right? So his graph probably actually fell off just a little bit faster than that. But while pizza rolls aren't what we're here to talk about, the graph, it's really better to understand something like this on a smaller scale when we look at it. So we're going to break this graph down just a little bit more here. So we're looking at 1 acre sample on the graph. You see we got net income on the left side. So we'd be having gross sales minus expenses, and we've laid it on top of bushels per acre on the bottom. Notice there's no assignment of true bushels per acre on the bottom. That's because each field's different, right, in your operation. What makes sense down on your bottoms isn't going to be the same graph and make sense for the same ones on the top, on the hill ground. So, but on this specific field, at about 150 bushel per acre, we start to turn profit. Right down here in the bottom corner, 150 bushel corn. As we continue to pump money into this crop, meaning more inputs, we get more bushels, and that increases along with our net income. So as we jump from 150 to 190 bushels per acre over here, now we're making a profit. Yeah, it's about time. $145 per acre. Think of this as your base operation. We got just the right amount of seed. We coupled it with a good amount of fertilizer and the proper chemical program. The crop's good. It makes us a return. This is an area we've become very steady with over time, and this makes us happy, right? Think of my three friends. This is Johnny's operation all year long. Steady producer. Yields are different. They're decent. Still making money. Likes being consistent year over year. But he doesn't want to rock the boat and make a whole lot of change. However, he's probably leaving some money out there in the form of opportunity cost on that spectrum. Now, let's look at the whole opposite side of the spectrum. This is a prime example of my buddy Trent over there in his fields. Trent's over here managing each field like it's a contest field and trying to knock it out of the park. Now, Trent, he shoots for 330 bushel averages on every field. I get it, that's a lot. So he's pumping all this money and income in there, trying to shoot for the big stuff, and he's starting to make it on some of these fields, but what's it truly cost him? Sure, I get it. Look, he's still making, what, $140 net profit up there, but at what opportunity cost? I understand the one desire to make giant yields, but is it the most profitable thing to do on all of our fields? My suggestion is we take one field from our operation, push it extra hard every year, probably just not every field. It's that one field we're going to learn from, and we can try new things that eventually might become cost effective enough that we can implement into our whole operation. Now finally, let's dive in the middle part of the graph. In this section up here, where we take our fields to the next level, let's try to take them to that point of maximum utility, where we can best utilize all of our dollars putting into the crop, but where we don't put excess inputs or money that don't come with a reward. So let's think small, and then you guys can always go bigger from there. I'll give you an example. A few years back, our salesman Gavin sees our bean tissue samples consistently are showing a deficiency in copper. Here's what you're looking at right there on that deficiency. He recommended that we had a copper micro with our post spray to get our plants back to optimal health. Well, not wanting to jump into anything new and head dive into it, he said, why don't we just do a side-by-side this year, and then we can compare it to Winfield trials. So here's what we got. 1 to 1.5 bushels per acre correcting the deficiency. In the big scheme of things, this isn't a whole lot of bushel difference. Realistically, it's hard to almost make the comparison. However, it was consistent out at our place, consistent trial to trial to trial here at Winfield plot. Looking what we're doing. So, just so we're on the same page, copper this year costs $3.05 per acre, right? And at today's prices, I'm going to get $13 back. Now, y'all know Preston's a little slow sometimes, but if I give you $3 and y'all give me $13 back, it's a good day for one of us, right? But that's what we want to do on every field. Again, we're just talking about one additive micro, but start small, think big. The data up here, used to construct the middle of the graph, I actually borrowed from Winfield last year. They used that over a 2-year time period, and they compiled it from over 40 of their plots out here. Basically, they took that strong base operation we were talking about, added products one at a time. They came up with yield increases, and then the effect of the income stream after that. Obviously, some of those products probably affected the bottom line a whole lot more than others. But what you're looking at up here, right in the middle, and I'll tell you here, that data has an in-furrow row starter with a fungicide, a post-chemical application with a mid-tier fungicide with recommended micros from tissue samples. The fertilizer was stabilized and split applied. and a leading aerial fungicide was flown over with the recommended micros in it from an additional tissue sample. Again, all these things have costs associated with them, and I get that, and I realize this. However, at the end of the day, the additional bushels that were consistently increased on there allowed for $83 to the bottom line. Not gross dollars, but to your bottom line up there. So let's think. We got the same field, same fixed costs as we had before. The only thing we changed was some variable inputs and how we managed the crop. So again, the return goes right in the middle there, from 140 up to what? 220, 230 on there. So without hesitation, I think we know whose operation this would be. This is my buddy Big Mike's. It's where he falls on the graph. He's been real successful over the last 20 years being open to new products and ideas. And he utilizes himself and others to test them and then see if they make financial sense for his whole operation. I'm guessing some of his gains have come with some bumps and learning lessons along the way. But I think this is why he spends so much time in his spreadsheets down below. I know he spends a lot of time in that basement. I hope we can all adapt to opportunities and be more like Big Mike. My question is, how can the team around me today help get you to that next level? Now, I want to switch gears real quick before we go. Your assignment between today and next year when we visit, I want you to all think about your kids, your family, and your heritage. Who's up next to sit in that tractor seat? I believe most of you guys have sat around and talked about transition planning, but have you acted on it? You're never too old to do it, and you can always change and modify it as you go. But maybe we ought to consider something big on the top of transition planning. Have you actively involved that next generation in the management decisions on your operation? Do you share the books with them? Do you really let them know what the balance sheet looks like? I don't know. Have you tried letting them farm maybe 50 or 100 acres by themselves? Let them use your equipment. Let them use you as their sounding board. I'm guessing it's probably got to do a lot with age and maturity, but don't ever let the opportunity to learn on your operation just come from that production side. Real quick story to wrap things up. Many years ago, I'm sitting at the bank and I get a message that one of my best farms just lost their dad. He was in his early 70s. I attended the funeral, gave my condolence to his only 2 sons. A week later, I look up in the office. I was pretty surprised to see him coming in because harvest was going on and both these guys ran big combines. I was not expecting it, but here's how the conversation went. Preston, we're 52 and 50 years old. We've worked for Dad our entire lives. We put the crop out and we take the crop in. We manage 3 men and 2 of our boys. However, we couldn't tell you if the corporation has lots of loans or lots in the checking account. Dad took care of everything and never bothered us with it. Can you please help us? Now, I'll tell you, I was totally surprised, but as I revisited the history with the family in my head, I concluded they were probably right. These guys, they could produce me under the table any day of the week, but they couldn't even find the checkbook. So, please involve that next generation earlier than you think. Helping to make them well-rounded will help them thrive down the road later and avoid another scenario like this. So to summarize today, real quick, sometimes we think that change can lead to something worse or that new ideas may just be a fad. Do your research, observe others, and compete against yourself year over year to make your operation better. Remember, noticing small changes early helps you adapt to those bigger changes that are yet to come. I appreciate everybody in here today and what you do for us as American farmers, but please be safe out there and have a successful 2022.